Hey everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards, fire up your fingers, and come join the conversation.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People. It is Friday, January 17th, 2020. 3 days until the VCDL lobby day in Virginia. And I lost my panel. There they are. So, wow. Virginia gun controllers are just the gift that keeps on giving, aren't they? The last, month? Every stinking week we got to talk about this. But the fact is, we got to talk about this. But before we do, let me say hello to my esteemed panel. We have the one, the only, the wound-up sumbitch of the week, because I know he's going to win that one. Roll call 219. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me, Budget. Great show tonight. Hopefully it goes out with any technical difficulties.
And not any more than we've already had, right? I mean, I already did lose the panel for just a second, so yeah. Par for the course here. Welcome back to Jason Spoon from Spoon CCW and Armory. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great tonight, Mike. How are you?
Absolutely wonderful, and glad to be having this conversation with everybody out there today. And as usual, the one, the only, the irascible yet lovable Squibload. How are you, sir?
I'm here.
The irascible yet lovable and unenthusiastic Squiblow. Who do we have out there in the chat on the YouTube's side tonight? We had Grim90 way early. Midnight Range TM being very impatient out there. He was next. New York Outcast. Midnight. Yeah, Rob had it right. You see now, you made him have to prove a point. That's why we're at 11:33. That's you, Midnight. That's your fault. Got to make you wait. D-Temp, how are you? Bo Weevil, Tennessee Gun Guy, Seven Wonders. Jason's pulling double duty. J Monty 1738. How's it going? I haven't seen you around before, so welcome. Hope you enjoy what you're seeing. Patriot, I hope you enjoy what you're hearing. For those of you who might be new to the show or who may be just picking this up for the first time on the replay, I try to keep things PG-13 at worst around here. I want to be kind of family friendly. My mods are pretty much on it, so, be appropriate. That being said, feel free to sound off in the chat to the side if you're live, or in the comments below if you're listening on the replay, because, unlike radio or TV or other media, this is a two-way street here. This is definitely a conversation. So please sound off out there in the chat, sound off out there in the comments. Let us know what you think, and be part of it. Got some more people coming on in. NEPA Gun Talk, how you doing? Seven Wonders came in. Well, Seven Wonders have been in. Tennessee Gun Guy, yep. Glad to see all you guys here. Midnight Rain says, if you see her, the wife's birthday is tomorrow. Oh, outstanding. Well, happy birthday. And looks like we had the one, the only, the Kingpin himself, David Bowling, hop in. How are you doing, sir?
All right. Thanks for having me, sir. Good to see you.
And it's good to see you too, sir. Well, we have quite a bit to talk about this week. And again, it starts with Virginia. On Monday, the NRA had its lobby day, and there was quite the turnout for it. They may even have had some effect on some of the bills that are being introduced in the Virginia legislature this session. Jacob Tiffins out there says, so is Virginia counties joining West Virginia? We'll talk about that in a little bit. So please stick around and be part of the conversation, man. Anyhow, let's go ahead and swap to the Washington Free Beacon's coverage of the NRA lobby day. This is from, when is this from? It's from January 13th. NRA supporters flood Virginia Capitol, push Dems to change gun control bills. Richmond, Virginia. Thousands of NRA supporters turned out at Virginia's Capitol building on Monday in a show of opposition that pushed Democrats in the state legislature to moderate or abandon some of their strictest gun control proposals. We are beyond impressed by today's turnout, DJ Spiker, Virginia State Director for the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action, told the Washington Free Beacon. You can see the passion and enthusiasm that the citizens of Virginia have in joining us in this fight. The presence of gun rights supporters at the State Senate Judiciary Committee hearing appeared to have an impact as Democrats formally withdrew SB 16, a hotly contested bill that would have effectively confiscated AR-15s and similar firearms and moderated several other proposals. The NRA, however, said the changes were not enough and promised to continue to oppose the bills as they continue to move forward in the coming weeks. While there were some improvements to some of these bills overall, it's still bad legislation, Spiker said. Putting in more regulations and making it more onerous to the law-abiding citizens of Virginia is not something we stand for. Gun rights proponents who spoke with the Free Beacon after the committee meeting adjourned said they believe the Democrats' gun control bills represent an attack on the Second Amendment. Christina Baker, a traveling emergency nurse who came to the hearing before a 13-hour shift, said she understood that there were good intentions at work, but fears an assault weapons ban or poorly constructed law could make her a criminal. I'm a single female that travels the country by myself in completely new areas, she told Free Beacon. I never knew where I'm going to end up, and to protect myself with whatever firearm I choose is so important to me. With the bills that are written and how they're written, 90% of my firearms, including my carry firearms, would be made illegal, and I would be made a felon overnight. I was disappointed to see the state legislature was interested in instituting these pieces of legislation, Richard Cosner, a preacher from nearby Chester and a 10-year Virginia resident, said. The Constitution is specific. It shall not be infringed. If somebody wants to restrict those rights, then they need to follow it by altering the Constitution, not by putting in place legislation that is in conflict with the Constitution. Other legislative changes advanced by the Judiciary Committee Monday included a modification to a proposed universal background check bill, which would now apply to sales specifically instead of gun transfers more broadly. The committee also passed a red flag law, which allows a judge to order a person's firearms temporarily seized, but further restricted who could file under the bill for an order for a firearm seizure. It moved a one gun a month purchase limit, but included an exemption for those with a gun carry permit. Lastly, it approved a bill allowing localities to regulate firearms, but only as to whether they can be carried on local government property or during permitted protests. Rico Ford, a business owner and father who traveled several hours to Richmond for the hearing, told the Free Beacon he was most bothered by the red flag plan. They all bother me, but the one that's the most heinous is the red flag law because it violates multiple constitutional amendments. 2nd, 4th, 5th, he said. Shall not be infringed is pretty clear. It's written in the United States Constitution as well as the Virginia Constitution. Ford said he plans to come back to Richmond again next week for a gun rights rally organized by the Virginia Citizens Defense League. The event is expected to draw even more people than Monday's. The NRA said it too plans to keep up the pressure. Spiker said today's turnout made him hopeful gun rights proponents would have an impact on what makes it into law, but also cautioned that the fight is far from over. Today was the first vote of what's sure to be 10-12 by the end of it. He said, we will do whatever we can do to stop these things and fight for our members and reflect their views. This was the first skirmish in what will be a long fight. Lawmakers will continue to work on the bills passed today and consider other gun control bills. Those include a House of Delegates bill that would ban new sales of AR-15s, force gun owners to register AR-15s, and outlaw possession of magazines holding more than 10 rounds. The size of the NRA's push on Monday eclipsed the attendance of a similar event held last week by Michael Bloomberg-backed gun control group Moms Demand Action. According to Moms Demand's official estimate, just 200 volunteers paid chills, showed up to push legislators for more gun control, an order of magnitude smaller than the number of NRA supporters in attendance on Monday. While the Free Beacon did not witness any Moms Demand Action supporters outside the Judiciary Committee hearing, the group's president posted pictures on Twitter showing 8 members in attendance. Here's what this article isn't telling you. That the turnout was so lopsided that in the line to get through their security check, once a certain number of pro-gun attendees were allowed in, they started skipping pro-gun attendees and deliberately seeking out anti-gun attendees to pack the place with. That's some shady garbage going on there. Discuss, gentlemen. Let me go out to the chat and check this out while you do, though.
I think it's a pretty clear indication that all we have to do is not sit back and take it anymore. We outnumber these communists, leftists, socialists, whatever, anti-gun, anti-constitute, whatever negative term you want to put on them, that aren't people who defend America and the idea that America is. We outnumber them by far, by huge numbers. And when one of them complains about something and all of a sudden the TV show's off the air, or a newspaper prints a retraction, or they stop selling this certain product, or you can't say this word anymore, that one person did that, and then we outnumber them by far. Look at any Democrat running for president. They can't draw flies at their rallies. Even Bernie Sanders doesn't even, he gets the best rallies, and that's a fraction of the people that Donald Trump pulls. So whether we're organized or not, as long as we're not fighting with each other about stupid stuff, we outnumber the bad guys by far.
Yeah, that we do. And the problem is we've been a silent majority up until now. I'm really hoping that this awakening in Virginia is predictive of an awakening across the country. But that was just Monday. All that happened. That was just Monday. Since then, there's been more. Before we get to that, though, let me go out in the chat and welcome a couple more people that I haven't seen before. I don't think I've seen James Cipriani. I don't believe I have seen Lockjaw, nor Bush Trash. Maybe the Virginia Patriot, I think, was here last time. Jacob Tiffin, I don't think I've seen you. So welcome to everybody. Welcome to those who have been here before and are coming back, like Sandhill Shooter, Guitar Man Pete. Welcome to all of you. I'm glad to see you. Who was it? There was somebody that asked about the NRA. Are they finally stepping up? It seems so. But then someone else pointed out that they're collecting donations. So, of course, they're going to show up. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. In response to all this and to all the online talk of everyone who's going to be attending this VCDL's Lobby Day, which is something that they hold every year in Virginia. VCDL stands for the Virginia Citizens Defense League, and every year on at this time they hold a lobby day where you go in and you talk with your legislators and whatnot. You get face to face and express your concerns, particularly as relates to gun rights in Virginia. Awesome. Well, this year it's kind of blown way up because of the awakening that's going on in Virginia and the fact that many people from across the country want to be able to go and express their support for Virginians, because we all know that if they succeed in Virginia, it's going to come here, wherever here is. So there's a lot of people, some estimates put it over 100,000 planning to attend. We'll see what that number actually turns out to be. But the point is, this has the anti-gunners running scared. So scared, in fact, that King Northam did something that, at least as far as I can tell, and keep in mind I'm not a lawyer, so if any of you out there are lawyers, please chime in on this. Something that, as far as I can tell, is completely, totally, and utterly illegal. This is from Fox News, an Associated Press article from 3 days ago. So it would be the 14th. Virginia's Ralph Northam to ban guns from Capitol grounds, officials say. Fearing a repeat of the deadly violence that engulfed Charlottesville. So let's go ahead and start this off right away with equating the two things. A quote-unquote white supremacist rally that was crashed by left-wing types and a pro-freedom, pro-rights rally. But I digress. So, you know, they automatically wanted to try to tar us with that brush. Anyway, fearing a repeat of the deadly violence that engulfed Charlottesville more than 2 years ago, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam plans to declare a temporary emergency Wednesday, banning all weapons, including guns, from Capitol Square ahead of massive rally plan next week over gun rights. That's according to two state officials who were briefed on the plans but not authorized to speak publicly about them. The governor, a Democrat, plans to announce the plans at a news conference Wednesday afternoon because of credible threats of potential violence and extremism, one official said. Northam's planned announcement comes days after Democratic leaders used a special rules committee to ban guns inside the Capitol and a legislative office building. That ban did not include Capitol grounds, which are under the governor's control and are where a huge number of gun rights advocates are expected to rally Monday. One official said Northam decided to ban all guns from the grounds of Capitol Square after receiving reports about inflammatory online postings by out-of-state pro-gun and militia groups who are promising to attend Monday's rally. The official said the state does not have intelligence that the groups are planning a specific act of violence, but said Northam has grown increasingly concerned about numerous ominous-sounding postings on social media from forces outside Virginia. The official cited one posting that included a photo of an AR-15 and said there are, quote, great side angles from certain buildings, unquote, near Capitol Square. Virginia law enforcement officials have been criticized for their planning in response to a deadly 2017 white nationalist rally in Charlottesville that involved heavily armed protesters. One woman was killed and several more were injured when a car plowed into a group of counter-protesters who were surrounding that car and beating on it and trying to tip it over and all that, but, you know, I digress. Anyhow, Northam's declaration will also ban items like helmets and shields, items that some white nationalists carried in Charlottesville. It's unclear how long the temporary ban will be in effect. See, they continuously try to equate people standing up for their Second Amendment rights to racism. Vile, disgusting, garbage tactics from the anti-gunners and their willing accomplices in the media there. Feel free to discuss, folks.
Well, I think we already know that VCDL has taken a legal challenge to that particular.
Yep. Which we're going to talk about next.
And I did hear something about that the judge upheld the ban, and they're appealing to the Supreme Court.
Let me just plow ahead on that one then. Because you're absolutely right. The VCDL and the Virginia chapter of the Gun Owners of America did indeed file suit for an injunction against the enforcement of Northam's order. The district judge that heard the case denied it. They denied the injunction. VCDL and GOA promptly filed an appeal. Well, let me tell you about... This is a news release from from Gun Owners of America. Virginia Supreme Court ignores Constitution, keeps gun owners disarmed at Lobby Day. Virginia Supreme Court ignores Constitution, blah, blah, blah. This from today. Springfield, Virginia. The Virginia Supreme Court has denied appeals here by Gun Owners of America and the Virginia Citizens Defense League to overturn Governor Ralph Northam's Lobby Day gun ban. Governor Northam issued an illegal order on Wednesday banning guns on the Capitol grounds, thus preventing law-abiding citizens from carrying firearms at Lobby Day this coming Monday, Eric Pratt, Senior Vice President of GOA, said. Sadly, the Virginia Supreme Court has decided to ignore the U.S. and Virginia constitutions as well as Virginia law and uphold Northam's ban. Ironically, this outcome will only further embolden Second Amendment supporters to be even louder for their rights, Pratt concluded. Gun owners in the Commonwealth will continue to challenge Governor Northam's unconstitutional gun control measures at every turn. Now, what he's referring to about this being against the law, well, let's take a look at Virginia Code. Section 44-146.15, construction of chapter. This is where it talks about the military and emergency laws, emergency services, and disaster law. Nothing in this chapter is to be construed to limit, modify, or abridge the authority of the governor to exercise any powers vested in him under the laws of this Commonwealth, independent of or in conjunction with any provisions of this chapter. Okay, so nothing in this chapter is supposed to limit his power there. Nothing is to interfere with the dissemination of news or comment on public affairs. But any communications facility or organization, including but not limited to radio and television stations, wire services, newspapers, may be required to transmit or print public service messages furnishing information or instructions in connection with actual or pending disaster. So that says that the governor can't disrupt communications, but can require, in the event of a disaster, for communications outlets to transmit disaster warnings. But here is the important piece. Nothing in this chapter is to be construed to empower the governor, any political subdivision, or any other governmental authority to in any way limit or prohibit the rights of the people to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by Article 1, Section 13 of the Constitution of Virginia or the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, including the otherwise lawful possession, carrying, transportation, sale, or transfer of firearms, except to the extent necessary to ensure public safety in any place or facility designated or used by the governor, any political subdivision of the Commonwealth, or any governmental entity as an emergency shelter or for the purposes of sheltering persons. So in English, that says that the only place the governor can restrict the right of the people to keep and bear arms is in an emergency shelter. The grounds of the Capitol is not an emergency shelter. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read, and I do understand English. And to me, that's what that says. So I don't know what kind of partisan political hack is sitting on the bench in Virginia's Supreme Court that would deny that appeal, and what kind of partisan political what activist in black robes initially denied the injunction, but they're flying directly in the face of Virginia law. Voters in Virginia, you need to pay attention when and if those people come up for election as well. Am I reading that wrong?
Nope, you're absolutely correct. I remember when that was passed. And it was, I don't remember whether it was Hurricane Katrina after Louisiana did it, or whether it was the hurricane that came up the East Coast. But law enforcement absolutely did do that. They collected firearms from people in Louisiana and East. And that law was passed specifically to stop that during a natural disaster and a public emergency.
Yeah, because they did this after Katrina, so a lot of other states said, no, wait, you can't do this crap. Virginia being one of them. But when the people who are supposed to uphold the law decide that they're going to break it, and then the people that are supposed to be the check and balance upon those people decide, we're going to let it go because we agree with it. Despite what the law clearly says, in such a way that even a layman like me can understand it, there's a problem. There is no longer the rule of law.
Yeah, we've gotten far away from that. I mean, look at, Maryland. You need a permit to carry a gun. Where can you find and shall not be infringed? Does it say I need to take and get a permit, the permission from the state to carry a firearm with me, or buy one from the store? I mean, there's just so many. This has gotten so far out of hand with the trampling of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the original basis of the laws and foundation of our society. It's gone way, way too far. Way too far.
Elections have consequences, folks.
And judges are not our kings. I don't need some Yahoo on the Supreme Court to tell me that shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. I can read that for myself. We've given these judges way too much power, and unfortunately, we're stuck here right now. We need to send everything to the courts. That's our only recourse, but that's got to stop too.
Where it needs to stop, well, actually, where the correction of this needs to begin is with you. Every single person who can hear this. It starts with you. You go to the ballot box. You vote for your rights. You hold accountable those who would infringe your rights. Pick up the phone. Type out an email. Sit down and write a snail mail letter. All that list of stuff that longtime listeners will know that I go through every week, even the absurd ones. Communicate your wishes to those who work for us. They are not our masters, they are our servants, and we need to remind them that. And if they fail to do so, kick their asses out. That's where it has to start.
Can I add, you represent our community responsibly and lawfully. You think about what you say and what you do when you're in public, when you're on social media, when you're anywhere where you can be seen outside of your home, and you can be recorded, tracked, or whatever. Think about what you're saying and what you're doing. Because if they think we're a bunch of crazy white supremacist gun nuts and all this other garbage, and you act like it, they're going to continue to believe it. We are in a way, the only way that our belief in freedom is going to be changed in the general public perception. Yeah. Most people are uninformed. They don't want to be informed. They don't want to be involved. They don't care what's on Netflix tonight, what's for dinner, who cares? So you can't necessarily twist somebody's arm and suddenly make them give a crap about liberty. But the way you carry yourself, if you scare the crap out of people, if you make threats, if you're pissed off and you want to vent, do it in private. I guess I should say in a way that maybe is not constructive. I'm not trying to sense, and you know what? You don't even have to do what I say. I'm not in charge. Do what you want. But I'm just saying, after you say it, it's really hard to take it back. After you show it, it's really hard to unsee what's been. So just think about how you carry yourself as a gun owner or somebody who wants to defend the Second Amendment. I know it is not easy. It's very frustrating, and it's difficult to pick the time and place when you stand up for yourself and how you do it. But just think before you act or speak, please.
Well, what excuse did they seize upon to do this unconstitutional, illegal action? What excuse did they seize upon? social media posts of people saying, boogaloo, blah! You know?
One of the things that we also have to remember is we can't be dismayed by losing.
No.
When your favorite candidate doesn't win, next election cycle, vote for your favorite candidate again, and keep trying. But you also have to remember that it's going to take dedication, because if you vote for John Smith, because John Smith said he's going to fix all the streetlights, when John Smith doesn't fix any streetlights, he's gone. One term, you're out. That's it. No excuses. And then the next candidate's not going to learn either. Bob Johnson or Stacey Brown is going to come in and say, I'll fix the streetlights, and then she's not going to fix them because she doesn't think you're serious. When you bounce her out after the very first, you have to go through about 2 or 3 candidates before they start understanding that the voting populace isn't playing around anymore.
Yeah. Roll call. You had something you wanted to share? I mean, you shared it out in the chat. Go ahead and speak it into existence here.
Yeah, I'm looking at it this way, man. Virginia, I'm starting to believe a little bit that's going to be a battleground, but more importantly, this is going to set precedent on how we act going forward, how we're going to be portrayed going forward, who we're going to want to represent us going forward as in organizations or individuals when we can't be at these certain types of places. I would love to be there. I can't afford to go. But this is going to reflect us here on out. So jumping around, calling for civil unrest, the ooh and the stacking this and be the first on the front line. I think it's one of the most dangerous things to say. Not only that, it paints us in the light that they always want to paint us, and that's the broad brush of we are some kind of radical, far right-wing conspiracy-loving people. And we're not like that. We're just normal people that believe in the right of self-defense, that believe that we should carry firearms. I think going forward from what happens on Monday is going to set precedent of what they're going to look at and expect at any other rally this way and on, for the rest of the year and the rest of the time that gun ownership is in existence. It could very well be that gun ownership could disappear in states. This is true. We've seen it. We've seen restrictions. We look at California. We look at New York. We look at Kingspin state of the great state of Maryland. We look at all these states that are getting very, very, very restrictive on how gun owners are supposed to, function in society. So if you're going to these types of things, you better present yourself. And I agree with Squiff. You better present yourself and not be some hothead. That's the problem that some people have in the gun culture, in certain groups. And if we don't portray ourselves as law-abiding citizens, civil people that want to start a conversation, then it becomes a moot point. And I'm telling you, a lot of people are talking about, well, this isn't as big as you think. The Chicago News ran this story. Not only that, their Facebook posts ran this story. Not only that, I've seen other institutions that call themselves the press run this story. This isn't like nobody knows what's going on. Everybody knows what's going on. And, the thing is, if you go there and you act like a clown, you're going to be the first one that's going to be put on CNN. I don't want that. Don't be that guy. Exactly. Don't be that guy. Go there. Let your voice be heard. If you can talk to a politician, don't sit there and yell at him. Talk to him. Tell him, look, this is what's wrong in this state. This is how we should fix this state. I look at it as this way. The only way you're going to get this guy out of office is to elect someone else. But at this point, don't let these laws pass, because we all know once they pass laws like this, they're hard to get off the books. And if they do, there's still remnants of them that are left over. I mean, look at what the NFA has done to us. The ATF is starting to creep in there where they're constituting laws into society. So these things are hard. Once they get in, they're hard to get back. And if we do get stuff back, we all know it's a small fraction of what we once had. So just don't be that guy. Go there respectful. And remember, going on forward, this is what people are going to see, and this is how we're going to be portrayed. If it's that many people going, I don't know how many people are going. I'm not going to be there.
So I'm the guy that's always saying that if your state law allows open carry, that it's good to open carry at a rally. And there's people out there who are anti-open carry or anti-open carry at a rally, and they don't understand. A lot of those people have never gone to a rally, by the way. But the thing is, in this case, this law is unconstitutional, it's unlawful, it's unjust, it's wrong, it's blah, 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 blah. All I'm asking is that you comply because of how okay, if one of us turns out to be a criminal, even if it's unconstitutional and it's got to get fought in court, they're going to broad brush us all as criminals. If you can stand across the street with your AR-15 and you're not violating this goofy, stupid, unjust law, maybe you do that. Maybe you do that and you don't actually physically step onto through the fence or through the gate or whatever it is. Or, I mean, the VCDL at first was saying, please don't show up with guns and body armor because they thought everybody was coming inside the building like them. They didn't understand that people were calling it a rally because they hadn't even been told that they were, because it was still lobby day for them. And once they found out that people were calling for a rally, then they were all like, oh yeah, bring your guns and body armor and stuff. So maybe that's what you do. You play it smart. You want to represent the community and you want to go, look at me, I'm not breaking any laws. And oh, by the way, there's lots of us here with guns and look, we're not hurting anyone. Then maybe you do. You stand across the street. There may be a bunch of people. Maybe you get together with your people. Maybe you contact the Virginia State Police or the Richmond Police and ask them, hey, if we stand over here and we never cross this street, are we in violation of the, get creative, get smart. And you know what? If there really are as many people coming as they say, there ain't going to be enough room on the Capitol grounds for everybody. So you may have to stand across the street anyhow. So maybe, I know this is kind of last minute because this is going to be happening soon, but maybe you do some planning. Maybe you call some of your buddies that you're going with and you make some phone calls. I mean, the police department's open 24 hours a day. You might have to wait until maybe a detective calls you back or somebody in charge, a watch sergeant or something like that. But maybe you can get some information. I only say this because I've done this myself when I've gone out of state and not known what the laws were and wanted some advice, some input, or just where does your department stand, sir, because I'm going to be in your jurisdiction, that sort of thing. I'm speaking from experience. So, but believe me, I'm the first person to say I don't think it should be a requirement, but I think it's a good idea to open carry if the state law allows it. In this case, it doesn't. I've gone places where I didn't know what the law was, so I didn't bring a gun. Then later I found out I could open carry. Or I've gone to places where I couldn't open carry, and I didn't. I didn't conceal carry, I couldn't carry a gun, period. And I didn't, because I'm trying to be a good steward for the Second Amendment community.
And that's what we all should do. We should all be good stewards for the Second Amendment community. We should look to make friends. We should look to represent who we are and what we believe and be the positive role model for our community. We should extend olive branches and I hate to use the cliche, although I did just use a hackneyed cliche about extending an olive branch, but we might as well build some bridges too to people that we would think are unlikely allies. Bush Trash out there in the chat said, the probability of Monday going without an incident is 30%, if you ask me. Let Antifa wankers do the first move. Well, I can agree with let the opposition do the first move, but I don't necessarily know that in this case that includes Antifa. This is a piece from Vice. Yes, I know it's Vice, but I have seen this piece other places as well, by Tess Owen from January 16th. Why this Antifa group is siding with thousands of pro-gun conservatives in Virginia. When the gun lovers rally in front of the Virginia Capitol in Richmond next week, The local chapter of Antifa will be there too. But their members won't be wearing all black, and they don't plan to douse right-wingers in milkshakes or silly string. Instead, local Antifa will join thousands of conservatives who are expected to descend on Richmond that day in protesting pending gun control legislation introduced by Democratic lawmakers. Antifa 7 Hills, based in Richmond, are opposing the slew of gun bills introduced by the newly Democratic legislature since November because they say those types of laws are used primarily to criminalize poor people, minorities, and leftists, and to bolster law enforcement's power. I can't disagree with any of that. I think it's been pretty important for us to focus on the fact that gun control in America has a legacy of racist enforcement. Exactly, said Antifa's 7 Hills spokesperson James, who asked that his name be withheld to avoid getting doxxed online. Like taking guns away from black people because black people were perceived as a threat to property and to the sanctity of the state. The local Antifa chapter's engagement in this issue is another example of the resurgence of pro-gun leftists in America, and yet more evidence that the gun rights debate is growing increasingly politically diffuse and nuanced beyond simply being a GOP issue. Under the Trump administration and in response to the emergence of an emboldened far-right movement, leftist gun groups have surged. For example, the Socialist Rifle Association was formed in 2018 and today has over 50 chapters across the country. Similarly, Redneck Revolt, a leftist gun group that formed in 2016, claims at least 45 chapters nationwide. This is our fight as much as anyone else's, James, who identifies as an anarchist, added. It's our state, and we're left largely out of the debate. The presence of an armed left is not discussed, it's not understood. Antifa and conservative gun rights activists would seem to be unlikely bedfellows. Anyone who's tuned into cable news in the last few years has watched scenes of political violence unfold between the hard left and right wingers in places like Portland, New York City, Boston, and Berkeley. But in the case of Antifa 7 Hills, they believe they've got more in common with working-class white Virginians, regardless of their political bent, than they do with many of the moderate Democrats who helped their party win control of the legislature in November for the first time since 1994. The shared skepticism of political moderates and authority is why Antifa 7 Hills sees the January 20th rally as an opportunity to extend an olive branch to other gun owners, at least those who don't align with the far-right militias or white supremacists who are also expected to show up to the event. They couldn't help themselves with trying to paint pro-gun people as far-right wing militias and supremacists and etc. It's also a reminder that Antifa is not a monolithic movement. James said that Antifa chapters tend to vary regionally in their goals, activities, and organizational structures. For example, anti-fascists in some parts of the U.S. have embraced black bloc protest tactics, which were imported from Europe and entail activists wearing all black and concealing their faces. While that tactic is often associated with Antifa in places like Portland, where anti-fascists sometimes show up in the hundreds to counter far-right groups, James says it's not as well suited to the South. I think what's particular about the South is that we have to be a bit more creative and sensitive to the people around us, instead of fulfilling some sort of meme of what Antifa is, said James. That's really what we're trying to work against right now, especially by talking to conservatives and showing we aren't just a black-clad group of rabble-rousers who are out for attention and have jobs funded by George Soros. It was less than 3 years ago that hundreds of Antifa, some in Black Bloc, showed up to battle white supremacists in Charlottesville, just 70 miles from Richmond. Many local residents praised Antifa as heroes in the aftermath of the violent rally, where a white supremacist killed one counter-protester and injured dozens because they believed that they intervened to drive out of the white supremacists when law enforcement faltered. But while the positive image of Antifa might persist among some Charlottesville residents who had first-hand experiences of the violence, it's not the case for much of the American public. Starting from President Donald Trump's comments after the rally, in which he laid blame on both sides of the conflict, well, that's because there was blame on both sides. Antifa has been transformed into a conservative boogeyman. Conspiracy theories about Soros-funded Antifa super soldiers plotting to behead white parents and unleash civil war on behalf of Democrats started circulating online months after Charlottesville. Some bad faith online personalities have used selectively edited clips of protests to make claims about the growing dangers of Antifa. Law enforcement has not linked any deaths to Antifa. Well, that's because they're incompetent. because that bike lock guy was sure as shit trying to kill somebody. James hopes to regain control of anti-fascism's image by showing ordinary Virginians that they share similar values and thinks that Monday's rally is a good opportunity to build those bridges. Now, that is exactly what we were just talking about. And it's interesting to see that the other side of this argument is showing some sense, where people on our side are not wanting to hear it. Let me read that again because it bears repeating. James hopes to regain control of anti-fascism's image by showing ordinary Virginians that they share similar values and thinks that Monday's rally is a good opportunity to build those bridges. You know, I may disagree with this guy's politics, but he is absolutely dead on, nail on the head with that. That's what we need to do. But what was originally billed as a run-of-the-mill open-carry pro-gun event has snowballed into something much larger since it was organized last month, and authorities are fearing that violent right-wing extremist groups could show up and hijack the day. On Wednesday, Governor Ralph Northam said law enforcement had intercepted threats from armed militias similar to those in the lead-up to Charlottesville and declared a state of emergency in a completely illegal fashion, as we just talked about, temporarily banning firearms from the Capitol grounds where the rally was slated to take place. On Thursday, the FBI arrested 3 men suspected of belonging to a neo-Nazi group who allegedly had weapons and had discussed attending the rally. If authorities' fears are confirmed and white supremacist groups join the fray, Antifa 7 Hills could be left in an awkward position. Asked whether there was a plan to switch from conservative outreach into a more combative role, James declined to comment. "We're not going to discuss our plans at this point," he said. So, that piece, again, underscores the importance of a couple things. Number one, the Second Amendment isn't just for conservatives. The Second Amendment isn't just for Republicans. The Second Amendment isn't just for white people. The Second Amendment isn't just for Christians. The Second Amendment isn't just for heterosexuals. The Second Amendment isn't just for whatever, insert stereotypical conservative gun owner here. The Second Amendment is for everybody. Every single person who is in this country, who abides by its laws, who upholds the social contract, whether they agree with you politically or not, is guaranteed and protected the right to keep and bear arms by the Second Amendment of this country. Everybody. And we need to recognize that as gun owners. We need to recognize that as pro-Second Amendment people. We need to build common ground with people who we otherwise might not. Because on this one thing, maybe we can work together to keep those who would hold power over us from disarming everybody and making us all their slaves. Am I off base with this, guys?
Absolutely not. And the thing we need to remember is, it's freedom. We don't always get to agree with the other side. But what I can tell you was seeing literally thousands of people a year just coming to either their Second Amendment rights or, guns in general, is that there's a whole gamut of people, massive amounts of women. We're seeing more of the LGBT crowd in, firearms classes. There's just a whole gamut of people that are coming to this and are finally realizing that, hey, wait a minute, this isn't just the backwoods one-tooth redneck with his hound dog that this applies to. It applies to everybody.
Everybody.
Think about this. We're defending the Second Amendment right of an organization that would be happy to see each and every one of us dead. That's
Absolutely.
a fact. And they're not going to defend our First Amendment right. We're not gonna join forces at some First Amendment rally with Antifa. Never. Because they hate they love hate speech. And they love to label everything we say as racism and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so think about the quality and the character of somebody who will stand up and say, that guy over there wants this gun to kill me. And you know what? It's his right to have it, and I'm going to defend his right to have it. Because you know what else happens? I'll have mine.
Exactly.
So when he comes for me, I can defend myself. But I'm not going to allow you to strip his guaranteed right away. Even though go back to the First Amendment. Tomorrow, when I'm at a First Amendment rally, he's going to be calling me a racist and wanting to change my language and everything. But I'm still going to defend his right.
That's it. James Cipriano put it well out there in the chat. He said, I'm a Navy vet. I don't have to like what others have to say in order to protect their ability to do so. That's it. This is about something bigger than our differences. We need to start finding areas where we can work together to keep our Second Amendment right. Let the other stuff be the other stuff. If you've noticed, folks, I don't generally talk about abortion. I don't generally talk about immigration. I don't generally talk about any of the other myriad of political topics that there is to talk about on this channel. I don't do that. And I don't do that for a reason, because this is about the Second Amendment. I don't care what your views are on any damn thing else. If you believe in the Second Amendment, if you believe that the Second Amendment is for everybody, if you believe that the Second Amendment is the supreme law of the land, then you and I can work together, regardless of what your opinions are on the other stuff. We can hash that out later. This is the important stuff. That's what I think anyway. But what do I know? I'm basically what amounts to a hired thug anyway. You know, as I said in the speech I made in Columbus back in September, you know, I'm just a fat loudmouth with a camera and a microphone, right?
But see, that's what makes America the most unique place in the history of mankind, is what you just said. The fact that we can hate each other about 99 other things, but that one thing we're not going to stop hating each other, but we can agree that this is something we agree on. So let's work on this, and then tomorrow we'll go back to hating each other.
Yep. Before we go any further with our topics, just let me put it out there, folks. If you like what you're hearing, hit the thumbs up button. Maybe hit the subscription button and the notification button. You know, that really helps out with the YouTube algorithm, especially the likes and whatnot. You know, if you're here on the replay, you know, leave a comment below. That helps YouTube tell people that helps tell YouTube that people are liking this, and it puts it out in front of other people's feeds and gives me a little bit more exposure and gives this message a little bit more exposure. So, you know, if you agree, hey, put it out there. Thanks. In a slightly humorous note, this is from WSET.com, ABC 13 News. This is an Associated Press piece from January 14th, which was my oldest son's 27th birthday. So, you know, a little bit. I mean, I told you happy birthday on the day, but happy birthday there, Cody. Anyhow, West Virginia invites Virginia County to join them. Charleston, West Virginia, AP. Virginia's for lovers, so West Virginia is reviving a 158-year-old proposal to ask one of its counties on a date. The answer, apparently, is still no. The West Virginia Senate adopted a resolution by voice vote Monday to remind residents of Frederick County, Virginia, that the county has a standing invite from 1862 to become part of West Virginia. It now goes to the House of Delegates. The resolution was introduced by Morgan County Republican Charles Trump, whose district borders Frederick County. Trump was born in Winchester, the seat of Frederick, which is Virginia's northernmost county. A message left for Frederick County Board of Supervisors Chairman-at-Large Chuck DeHaven wasn't immediately returned Monday, but he told the Herald-Mail of Hagerstown, Maryland last week that Frederick County has no interest in becoming part of West Virginia. Frederick was formed in 1743, and much of it later was carved out to create several other counties. It remains much closer to Richmond at 136 miles than West Virginia's state capital of Charleston at 268 miles. West Virginia, born in 1863 during the Civil War, is the only state to be formed by seceding from a Confederate state. Some Virginia border counties were given the choice to become part of the new state if their residents approved. Berkeley and Jefferson counties gave their nod, siding with the Union. Trump said a vote was never taken in Frederick County, which ended up nearly surrounded on three sides by the northern neighbor. Monday's resolution is simply to remind them, make them aware, that they have an invitation that was extended 158 years ago, Trump said on the Senate floor. I think that is brilliant. That is an absolutely brilliant thumb in the eye to Governor Blackface Northam. Frankly, I would just laugh I'd be tickled to death to see multiple 2A counties, 2A sanctuary counties in Virginia start the secession movement to join West Virginia. I would just giggle. That would be hilarious. Let's see. Yeah, D-Temp apparently agrees. He says it would be hilarious if all but 7 counties moved to West Virginia.
Yeah, it would be funny, but it would be an absolute tragedy. That we can't let that happen. I mean, it's funny to talk about it, but allowing something like that to happen would massively change our country.
Oh, it would. But I would still laugh. I'm sorry. I would find humor in that. I would.
Yeah, it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, I think it's really funny. I'm glad that they did it, but thinking that it's actually going to take place, that's not going to happen.
No, it won't. It's just something in the nature of a thumb in the eye. I mean, that's all it is. It's a symbolic thing.
They offered a bunch of counties in Maryland the same thing just recently, too.
That's awesome.
Actually, there's been a petition, several counties in New York State to join Pennsylvania also.
I don't blame them. I'd want to as well. Midnight Range TM says, Budget Guns and Gear, the Antifa guy sounds good, but is every member of Antifa that's going to show up actually there for good reasons? Be wary of the outstretched hands you think you can shake. Well, yeah, don't be an absolute fool, but, I think, was it Reagan that said it as trust but verify? Keep an eye out on them, but...
Also,
go ahead.
Don't be mistaken about thinking Antifa is going to be there for a good purpose. Just because they approve of the Second Amendment and they want to defend it too, doesn't mean that it's not for nefarious purposes. That's what I said earlier. They want to use those guns to shoot us in the face with.
Oh yeah. But the fact is, we'll have ours to shoot back. At least we haven't all been disarmed and run roughshod over by the state, which frankly is the goal of any gun control, is to turn us into subjects, to turn us into slaves so that they can do whatever they want. It has happened every single time throughout history that arms control and weapons controls have been implemented on a populace that they have been subjugated. Every time. So I'd rather fight those guys than live under the tyranny of the state. At least that's how I look at it. Again, just a fat guy with a microphone and a camera, so I could be wrong. I've been known to be wrong before. Here's another piece.
Budget.
Go ahead.
Budget. That's not a microphone. It's a Polar Pop. Other hand.
No, see, this is a microphone. That's a camera. This is my Polar Pop. And before anyone asks, yes, I had my cheddar brought before I started the show. And no throats were cleared during the obtaining of the cheddar brat and Polar Pop. So, yeah, no throats were cleared. Anyhow, In another piece of good news, this is from Breitbart from, when is it? From January 16th. Virginia County supervisors pull gun control support after public backlash. Prince William County supervisors pulled a resolution in support of more firearm laws after county residents flooded their board meeting Tuesday with opposition to gun control. The Prince William Times reports that the resolution was initially discussed by the previous Board of Supervisors, which was Republican-controlled, and which passed a constitutional carry declaration December 10, 2019. Democrat Board Chair Ann Wheeler proposed Resolution 10A for the new board, and the matter was discussed on January 7, 2020, but a vote on the matter was suspended amid public backlash. The vote was rescheduled for January 21, 2020, only to be abruptly canceled on January 14, 2020, with the resolution tabled indefinitely. The resolution would have put the county on record in support of red flag laws, criminalization of private gun sales via universal background checks, and penalties for gun storage violations, among other things. Democrat lawmakers at the state level are currently pushing a war on guns that includes licensing for AR-15 owners, the creation of a database of said owners, and a ban on high-capacity magazines, suppressors, and certain aftermarket triggers. On January 15, 2020, Governor Ralph Northam temporarily banned gun possession on state capitol grounds. So, it's important to do your due diligence and stand up and make your voice heard on the local level as well, because you can affect change. That's really, the local level is the most important, because that's where you can affect the most change directly with your voice. So get involved, people. The time for sitting on the couch is over. We cannot afford to be complacent anymore. We can't, because Virginia could happen here in Ohio. Easy. Matter of fact, it's, our rhino governor is wanting it to. And it can happen anywhere. We have to stop it. So what's my next topic? One more before we move on to the Moron of the Week. Anyone who's ever watched the show before will know that I am completely, totally, and utterly against red flag laws, because they have very little to do with due process, and they are rampant with the possibility of abuse. Here's a case where they absolutely were abused. Woman tries using red flag law to punish cop who shot her son. From January 15, 2020, by Tom Knighton. This is on bearingarms.com. From the beginning of the discussion on red flag laws, opponents have argued that some people will try to use the laws to punish people for whatever reason. Unsurprisingly, we were called paranoid. Proponents of such laws argued that things like that don't really happen because apparently people aren't people or something. Regardless, proponents claim it's simply not an issue worth worrying about. Yet here we have a prime example of someone doing just that. A mother whose teenage son was shot and killed by a Colorado State University police officer is seeking to have the officer's weapons seized under Colorado's new red flag gun control law. The case is a critical test of the bounds of the controversial law. Susan Holmes filed an extreme risk protection order petition against Corporal Philip Morris in Larimer County on January 9th. A hearing has been set for Thursday. On her petition, Holmes also checked the box next to the question of whether this person has posed a credible threat or the unlawful reckless use of a firearm. In her explanation, she wrote, Phil Morris used his firearm to recklessly and violently threaten and kill a 19-year-old Jeremy Holmes. The problem is that Jeremy Holmes was shot and killed by Corporal Morris in the line of duty in 2017, a situation that's been described as suicide by cop. But how did Holmes file the order in the first place? After all, Colorado law states only police or family members can file an application for a red flag order, so how did Holmes file against Morris? It's easy. She lied. You see, she claimed they were family. She said she had a baby with Morris. No such baby exists. Now, Morris is fortunate here. He's lucky because this is early enough in Colorado's foray into red flag laws that such filings make news and, in this case, the media actually looked into it. The judge will likely learn of Holmes' lies and dismiss the case. But what if there hadn't been a news report? This is a huge part of the problem for me and a lot of other people. Without the media report, something you simply can't assume will pop up on every case out there, Morris could potentially face losing his job. And through this all, what happens to Holmes? Nothing. The Colorado legislature removed a provision from the original bill allowing victims of malicious red flag filings to seek civil damages. That means Holmes is going to walk away from this without even a slap on the wrist. After all, there's no penalty in place for lying on the order, though the judge might decide to slap her with a contempt of court charge, also ought to charge her ass with perjury. And all this is the best case scenario. It's also possible that the judge won't even see the news reports and actually grant the order. That means Morris won't be able to do his job. I'd like to think that his department would understand under the circumstances, but that's not a given. Pro-red flag folks will still try to tell me that this is a small price to pay, or that this is an isolated incident, or that it's simply not a big deal. Well, I'm sorry, but the law shouldn't be so easy to use as a cudgel to punish your enemies with. That is a perfect illustration of one of the problems with these pieces of legislation.
I read an article about that piece of legislation in that particular case in a different news source that said that the officer, even if the order is granted and it's dismissed, he still has to go through another court proceedings to get his firearms back.
Yep. And guaranteed it's going to be at his expense, too. Just like the fellow in Florida.
Red flag laws are a good example, a perfect example of how we're losing the language battle. You know, because all these politicians and all these lobby groups are going to stand up and say red flag laws or emergency risk protection orders are going to keep people safe, and they're going to keep guns out of dangerous people's hands, because that's what the first sentence in the bill says. And you know, they play sleight of hand with the definitions and the words and the press. I don't know. That's just another reason why we can't let them take over the language anymore either.
Sometimes the pen is mightier than the sword.
Oh, the sword doesn't. Nuclear weapons don't hold up to the word. The word is the most powerful force on the planet. You know, because all I got to do is say something about you, and one person believe it and spread it around. That's you from now on.
Yeah.
Even if you exonerate yourself and show gobs and gobs and gobs of evidence, you're that. You know, that's why I say the First Amendment is absolutely the most critical thing to protect, because it protects the Second Amendment. You know, if your boss fires you because you told a sexually charged joke at the water cooler during work, you can't go back in there and defend your First Amendment with that gun. You know, listen, how many words we're not allowed to say right now because somebody else decided that it's hate speech or it's mean or not proper or PC. You know, they've controlled the way we speak, and we can't defend that kind of stuff with our firearms. You know, I get it. You know, the second defends the first. When the government comes down and says, you know, you will say this at 3:00 in the afternoon, we can all say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to defend ourselves. But in your everyday life, your speech is the most vulnerable right that you have.
There is a reason why, if you look down below, the very last thing you'll see at the bottom of this window is use the right of the people, using the first to defend the second. It's that important. You have to be able to speak to defend everything else. The First and the Second Amendments are the First and the Second Amendments for a reason. I made a speech about that actually, in Columbus. You may have just heard me reference that. I'll put a link out in the chat to the video for that if you're interested. It is about red flag laws and gathering together using the First Amendment rights to peaceably assemble to defend the Second Amendment. So go check that out if you like. Those of you watching this in the replay will see it up here. So that's what's went on this week, Second Amendment wise. Virginia, but hey, that's what's going on. We all have to be vigilant of it. We all have to be watchful of it. We all have to be aware of it because, complacency isn't going to cut it anymore. Being complacent, not paying attention, ain't really smart. And speaking of not really smart.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
For those of you who aren't familiar with this segment, Moron of the Week is where I pick two people at least who have done something or said something pretty stupid regarding the Second Amendment. So, yeah. I then present it, and you guys vote on who wins the dubious honor. First up this week, this is a piece from the Daily Wire. Cardi B has a solution for your guns. Rapper Cardi B, who recently expressed her interest in running for Congress, proposed a solution to the heated gun debate. Treat guns like alcohol. Guns can also get prohibited like the time alcohol was, said the rapper, whose real name is Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar. But guess what, she continued. It was allowed again with regulations and strict rules, and now people drink responsibly. What? Have you seen drunk driving statistics? Oh, or maybe drinking responsibly is drugging men's drinks so that you can rob them. Like,
when Prohibition was repealed, they didn't come up with new regulations and suddenly people started drinking more responsibly. No, this is made up history. This is somebody who goes, I think I'm smarter than you and I'm going to make up history. And of course you're going to believe me because you're not going to do critical thinking and do a little bit of fact checking.
Exactly.
Don't forget about the rape part. The thing that Bill Cosby's in prison for drugging and raping people, a Cardi B admitted to on social media over and over again.
The entertainer made the remarks after a Twitter user pointed out to her that bearing arms is a protected constitutional right, as is free speech under the First Amendment. Cardi B was apparently confused about the Second Amendment, hence her suggestion to treat it like alcohol. Additionally, it's unclear why the rapper believes prohibition, and then its overturning, has made people drink responsibly. Listen, I do believe we have the right to bear arms. B-A-R-E is what she wrote. The new mother posted via Twitter. She's a mother? Oh, that poor kid. However, I do believe in order to get a gun, we should get mental checkups, proper training, and an older age limit to own one. If the proper age limit to drinking is 21 because these kids can't handle their liquor, how can they possibly get the responsibility to own a gun? Is that fair? Well, gee, I guess maybe they shouldn't be forced to go out and fight for your right to be a freaking idiot. I almost broke my own rule. To be a freaking idiot, huh? The discussion about guns popped up on Cardi B's Twitter feed after the rapper said she wanted to open up political discussions with conservatives unless you racist. Because, of course, if you disagree with her, you've got to be a racist. Let me tell you something, because every time I post anything political, I get attacked all type of crazy, she wrote. Well, maybe it's because you're a fucking moron. Oh, sorry, there's the one. If you are a conservative and if you support an opposite party, that's okay. Unless you racist, we can get into friendly debates on here, voice your opinion. And I'll voice mine's. However, don't try me and don't take my kindness for weakness. I be violating. Yeah, just like all those dudes you violated, right?
That's
the
really
27-year-old
good grammar.
continued. I don't really like being on that type of time. We grown. Let's be grown. Let's teach and learn. As noted by the Daily Wire earlier this week, Cardi B announced that she might like to run for Congress after supplementing her education. Well, that's going to be a hell of a supplement right there. I think I want to be a politician. I really love government, even though I don't agree with government. She wrote via Twitter, later adding, I do feel like if I go back to school and focus up, I can be part of Congress. I deadass have so much ideas that make sense, but apparently not a grasp of grammar and punctuation and spelling, and at least she recognizes that she does need to go back to school, so I'll give her credit for that. I just need a couple of years of school, and I can shake the table. The rapper is currently facing up to 4 years behind bars in connection to a 2018 strip club brawl, the Daily Wire noted. Moreover, Cardi B has bragged about drugging and robbing men she lured into hotel rooms by promising them sex. I had to go strip. I had to go, oh yeah, you want to fuck me? Cardi B said in a video that surfaced in 2018. Yeah, let's go back to this hotel. And I drugged him up and I robbed him. That's what I used to do. Yo, and if he cheat on me, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to take him out. We're going to get drunk. I'm going to get him all perked up and everything. We're going to have a good time, get him super twisted, then bring around, she said in another video, we're going to have a threesome, and when he wake up, he's going to be like, what the, because that was a tranny. I'm going to be like, yep, yeah, we had a threesome with a tranny. Yep, a tranny. This is one classy lady. So classy. She's just, let's vote for her. So, yeah, Cardi B, candidate number one. I almost don't have to do this next one. Candidate number two, since I am all about using the first to defend the second, is about a public university limiting some students' rights to do that very thing. Public university sued for shutting down student protest against gun-free zones. This is from the College Fix, by Connor Ellington from the University of Texas, Austin, from today, January 17, 2020. 2 weeks' notice is appropriate to prevent disruption, administration says. Students who want to protest gun-free zones at Montclair State University must get permission 2 weeks ahead of time, no matter how mirthful their protest is. MSU's Young Americans for Liberty chapter filed a federal lawsuit against the New Jersey Public University Thursday, targeting 3 sets of policies as unconstitutional. The first is the speech permit policy, which prematurely ended YAL's September protest against gun-free zones, according to the suit. Members dressed up in orange prisoner jumpsuits and held up signs that read, "Every civilian gun is a threat, disarm law-abiding citizens, and criminals for gun-free zones." That's actually pretty clever. Sergeant of Campus Police Kaluba Chipepo, told the activists they were violating university policy because they did not obtain permission to speak from MSU officials. They were told to disband voluntarily or their gathering would be terminated, as protests cannot continue. The 2-week permission requirement qualifies as a prior restraint on speech, violating the First Amendment, according to the lawsuit. It also challenges MSU's student organization regulations, which give YAL the fewest privileges of any political group on campus and its bias response team. Common outdoor areas of MSU are traditional public forums, the suit argues, meaning the university cannot exclude or restrict a student's speech based upon viewpoint. Yet MSU policy requires administrators to examine the content and viewpoint of student speech in deciding whether to approve, modify, or reject a student's request to speak. The marketplace of ideas represented by a public university can't function if officials impose burdensome restraints on speech or if they can selectively enforce those restraints against disfavored groups, Michael Ross, legal counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom, said in a press release. The public interest law firm is representing the students. Free speech shouldn't be infringed. We have the right to say what we have to say. Montclair YAL President Mina Botros, the individual plaintiff, told the College Fix. The university told the Fix it hadn't been served the complaint, but provided a statement from President Susan Cole that said MSU is absolutely and unequivocally committed to the freedom of speech. Cole cited 2 principles underlying the university's policy on demonstrations and assemblies. University members have the right to foster discourse and exchange ideas, as well as the right to participate in university activities without being disrupted. The university has adopted appropriate procedures to assure that it functions in accordance with these principles, and we have no reason to think that we have taken any action in violation of our principles or policies, she concluded. MSU charges each student mandatory student fees, but student organizations aren't treated equally by default. The student government assigns them a class and grants them specific privileges based on it. Organizations only make their way to Class 1 designation if they have an appeal that reaches the general interest of the entire campus community or that fosters pride and mobilizes awareness in the interest of a large, distinct, and prolific subculture of the campus community as deemed by the discretion of the chartering process, the suit says, quoting from the regulations. At the other end of the spectrum, organizations are granted a Class 4 or 3 designation if they meet the needs of a very specific and unique interest of the campus community and draw students who are yet to be specifically represented by a chartered organization. Class 4 is dubbed entry level. At Class 1, student organizations receive funding derived from the student fees. At the lowest level, organizations must fundraise but can receive up to $500 in matching dollars from the student government at its discretion. YAL is assigned to the lowest tier, Class 4, and is the only political organization at that level, according to the suit. Political organizations in Class 3 include Animal Activists, the Environmental Club, and Yes She Can campaign, Justice for Education, a social justice education organization, and Femvolution are Class 2 organizations. All student organizations need to plead their case to the student government to be rechartered on a yearly or biennial basis, depending on their class. Because the rechartering process explicitly considers the organization's viewpoint, speech, popularity, and size, MSU is unconstitutionally discriminating against YAL based on its viewpoint and the content of its speech. It's also compelling speech by forcing students to pay an activity fee that funds student organizations in a manner that is not viewpoint neutral, the plaintiffs claim. So there you go, folks. MSU administration and student government believes that all opinions are equal, but some opinions are more equal than others. I have to say that the pigs in 1980 in Animal Farm, I know I got my Orwell mixed up. The pigs in Animal Farm would be proud. So there we have it, folks. As soon as I can find me a pen, which I have managed to locate here, we have as far as I'm concerned, we have a pretty difficult choice here. We have, for Moron of the Week, who was dumber, Cardi B or the MSU administration? All right, roll call. Give us a first vote. Who's dumber?
Oh, it's the Cardi B girl. Oh, God, what a mistake.
Cardi B. Jason, who's dumber?
Cardi B.
Kingpin.
Oh, Cardi B's mentally and emotionally damaged. I'm going with the MSU people because the First Amendment doesn't say I need a permit to peaceably assemble.
Squib.
Elizabeth Warren.
Okay, but we can't vote for Elizabeth Warren right now.
Oh.
I guess I'm infringing on your speech there.
I guess that B person.
Cardi B. That B person. All right. This is the portion where you folks out there watching at home can chime in and be part of this conversation. Because starting right now, I'm going to start counting your votes out there in the chat. So if you've already put something out there, put it in there again. Let's go ahead and get some votes in, folks.
I think this is going to be a pretty clear landslide.
1 for Cardi B. 2 for Cardi B. Kinky says Cardi B. 9mm says Cardi B. Bush Trash, Cardi B. Kinky already said Cardi B. Midnight, Cardi. You can't vote for both, Mystic. By the way, Mia, happy birthday tomorrow. New York Outcast, Cardi B. D-Temp, MSU. Patriot, MSU. Carl, Cardi B. 7, Cardi B. 43 folks out there watching. Come on, I know you got to have some opinion on this one. James, Cardi B. Mushu is not. MSU. I that's what I'll count that as. Ozzy says MSU.
John Z said Cardi B.
John Z said Cardi B. Thanks for catching that. And I think that this is a pretty clear win. My vote doesn't matter. Cardi B gets it with 13-5. So Cardi B, you are the Budget Guns and Gear Reviews Moron of the Week for January 17th, 2020.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
I can't wait till someday I'm going to get... I'm sure someone's going to complain, and I'm going to get slapped down by YouTube for bullying on that one. I see it coming. Now that that's
Maybe
all
we
out of the way, Seven Wonder says Cardi B is such a low-life POS, she doesn't even deserve a vote for Moron. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably right. But now that that's...
Obnoxious voted for MSG. He feels like his vote didn't matter. No, really. You need to go to the polls. Your vote does count. It does count.
Obnoxious originally voted for Roll Call B. So, yeah. I decided not to count that one. Your vote doesn't count.
Yeah, that's like the hanging Chad. He's like the hanging Chad, you know. You just don't like it.
You dug into the way back for that one. That's great. Hanging Chad. Now that we're done with all of our topics, and now that we've got the Moron of the Week chosen, we're going to move on to the final segment. Roll Call 219's absolute favorite, Self-Defense Shoutouts. For those of you who are new to the show or have never stuck around to the end, Self-Defense Shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy won the dirt temperature challenge by I always want to say dirt temperature. The room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It is where the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to prevent the bad guy from making him do the same thing. First up from ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Arizona trooper shot in ambush attack. Good Samaritan kills gunman. This is from January 12th, 2017. Oh, never mind. My bad. I guess I should nominate myself for Moron. So let's go get away from that one and go to this one. Another ambush attack. This is from Concealed Nation, which I know this is from 2020. This is from 1/12/2020. Armed man fights his way out of ambush by 5 teens, shoots, kills one of the attackers, by Xavier Roberts. Turtle Creek Township, Ohio. 5 Ohio teens hatched a plan to lure, attack, and rob and kidnap a man. They brought with them a baseball bat and a firearm as their tools for the job. What they weren't expecting was that their intended victim would be armed and ready to fight back. According to a press release from the Warren County Sheriff's Department, 18-year-old Dakota Cox of Kettering and 4 other teens, including Trudix, planned the robbery and kidnapping of an individual the night of December 13th. The individual was lured to a residence in the 1800 block of Oregonia Road in Turtle Creek Township. According to police, upon arriving at the address, the individual was threatened with a bat and a firearm. Deputies say the subject then defended himself against attack with a firearm, and in the ensuing battle, Mason Tudix got this rotten pop-up. Anyhow, in the ensuing battle, Mason Tudix was shot and killed, and a 16-year-old was critically injured by gunfire. Despite the fact that these ambushers were kids, they did come prepared with weapons and a plan. They lured the victim to a house where they were waiting to ambush. When he arrived, the 5 teens confronted him with a firearm and baseball bat. All we know after that is the intended victim drew his firearm and fought his way to safety. The shooter fatally shot one of the teens and wounded another as he escaped. The 4 remaining teens went to a neighbor's house for help while their dead friend was lying on the ground. They pounded on the windows and screamed until the neighbor called 911 for help. When the police arrived, it didn't take long for them to sort out what had happened. The 4 teens are all being charged with murder in addition to a number of other crimes, including attempted kidnapping. Because a death occurred during an armed crime attempt, the murder charges apply to the boys. Who knows why they wanted to kidnap this man, or what they intended to do with him afterwards. Now, the boys will most likely be spending their prime years behind bars. As for the armed citizen, he was questioned by police and later released. No charges have been filed against him. Good for you, armed citizen. Speaking of good for you, armed citizen, from Fox23.com, homeowner's son shoots suspected intruder at Tulsa home. From Fox23.com news staff from January 11, 2020. Tulsa, Oklahoma. A man is in the hospital after police say he broke into a Tulsa home early Saturday morning. Tulsa police say they were called about the shooting near Admiral and Sheridan around 3 a.m. and found a man shot in the stomach laying in the street. 5 people were inside the home earlier in the night when the suspected intruder came knocking and demanded to speak to his fiancée. The son of the homeowner told him he had the wrong house. That's when police say the man walked into the driveway and started looking through the windows before coming to the back door. Police say the homeowner's son gave the man several warnings and told him he was armed. The man kicked open the door and came in, only to be shot once in the stomach. Paramedics took the man to the hospital, where he went into surgery. Well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? And speaking of play stupid games, win stupid prizes, this is from WGNO.com from January 14th, 2020. Livingston homeowner shoots and kills intruder during home invasion. Livingston Parish, Louisiana. Around 8:30 a.m. on January 12th, deputies with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office were dispatched to the 19,000 stretch of Louisiana Highway 42 south of Livingston in reference to an unknown suspect forcing entry into an occupied home and a shot fired. Sheriff Jason Ard says, "Through our investigation, we learned that 34-year-old Kendall McCarroll and his wife, Angel, both from Holden, drove a vehicle through the homeowner's yard. Why? We don't know at this time, but we do know that their vehicle got stuck. When the McCarrolls couldn't dislodge the vehicle, Kendall McCarroll forced his way into the home through the front door." Ard continues, When the head of that household confronted him, Kendall retreated, but did not leave. Instead, he armed himself with a shovel handle. He then used that to break the bathroom window from outside the home. The resident, who remained inside the home with his family, feared for his safety and the safety of his family. That resident fired one single gunshot. The shot struck Kendall McCarroll. Kendall McCarroll was transported to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead. Angel McCarroll had left the scene, but she was later taken into custody by LPSO deputies. She remains in the Livingston Parish Detention Center on one count of principal to home invasion. Like she's not in Ohio because she get charged with murder too. And there we have it, folks. Several instances where, despite what the mainstream media and the moms demand attention would have you think, the good guy with the gun stopped the bad guy. That's it, folks. We're here at the end of the show. I very much appreciate you guys coming by. Let me go to... before we do, let me ask you guys one thing. What do you guys think about the new hat? If those of you who may be paying attention know, my old hat had a smaller logo embroidered over here. I sewed one of my patches to this one. What do you guys think it looks like with the big 3-inch patch on the hat? Yay? Nay? Get rid of it? Oh my God, my eyes, my eyes! You know, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below or in the chat out there. As you guys are doing that, I want to say thank you to my esteemed panel and give them a chance to plug their channels and leave us with any final words of wisdom. Roll call 219. Is there anything you would like to plug or put out there, sir?
Sure, I was responding to Steve Carter, who said your channel is a waste of time.
Yeah, I am too. He can stick it in his
Yeah, I don't think he understands the premise and the platform of the show, where he should go back and watch it. And it's people like that. And I already gave up my rallying rants and raves the other day, so really have nothing else. I'm sorry, Steve. I think this is a great show. I'm proud to be a part of it. So
He doesn't have to like it. You know, he doesn't have to like the show. That's fine. I'm quite okay with that. You know, maybe he might want to go back and watch the first hour and a half where we talked about Virginia. Maybe want to watch the last.
We've been talking about Virginia so much. I'm actually sick of hearing about Virginia, Steve.
Maybe watch the last 3 or 4 episodes of the show where we were talking about Virginia, where we had the Virginia Director for Gun Owners of America on twice running, 3 times running. Plus, let's not forget the Right of the People single shots that were just about Virginia. You know, but he doesn't have to like it. That's okay. He can dislike the show. Good on him.
I just want to say, hey, you stay safe out there, Steve. We're all with you, whether you like the show or not. We all have something in common, and that's to keep our gun rights. If you want to go and catch my stuff, it's at Roll Call 219 here on YouTube, or you can find me on Instagram at Roll Call 219, where I post some pictures and stuff. I don't know what else to say about Virginia that hasn't been said already. There's going to be a ton of people there at Lobby Day. Just be aware of your surroundings. Be safe. I want to thank Budget for this show. I have a show on Wednesday nights called Rants and Raves, where it's a little less restrictive, and the chat is a bit more free-flowing. If you want to check that out, that's on Wednesday nights around 9:30, 10-ish, whenever my internet wants to behave itself. So thanks again, Budget. I love the show. And you guys out there, be safe. Catch you on the next one.
Hey, Steve, HB 20 from Virginia's 2012 session. Are you talking about where they made it illegal for the governor to do what he's doing? Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Jason, anything you would like to plug, sir? Any words of wisdom you'd like to share with us?
Well, I hope the stuff in Virginia down there on Monday stays calm for everybody. Some good stuff comes out of there, and the legislature realizes their mistake, I guess is the best way I can put that, along with their governor. Hopefully they have a massive change of heart when they see the droves and droves and droves of people that are going to be outside of their Capitol building. I'm hoping for the best. I don't want to see something that's going to spark anything worse going on down there. So yeah, great show, Mike. I know guys are talking about somebody who doesn't like it, but I think everybody that's here for the most part likes this show and appreciates what you're doing with it. And if you want to check out some of our training stuff, it's we have a YouTube channel, Spoon CCW, and a pretty good Facebook following. So Facebook and /Spoon CCW.
Kingpin, anything you'd like to put out there? Any words of wisdom, etc.?
Oh, man. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for having me, Budget.
Hey, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it. Squib, any words of wisdom, plugs you'd like to make, etc.?
Sure. If you want to be the moron of the week, just do some of the stuff that you're promising to do at the rally, assuming you even go in Virginia. This can be like any other Second Amendment rally where we let the public know that we're law-abiding citizens, that we let the politicians know that there's a lot of us out there, that we network out with each other, we support each other, we let other people know, especially the people who've never been to a rally before, that you're not alone. This can be a rally like any other rally, or it can be a mess because there's too many hotheads out there that want something to happen.
Yeah. I think we need to be
see you on Moron of the
careful
Week.
that anywhere we go. Want to say thanks to everybody on the panel, everybody out there in the chat. Like it, love it, hate it. Hey, it's all good, man. It's okay. In fact, as we do talk about these things every week because they're important. And, I like to kind of break it up and give a little bit here at the end of the show for those who are interested in it. The Moron of the Week and the Self-Defense Shoutouts. So, if you like that kind of thing, stick around for it. If you don't, awesome. Get the main topics and then, skedaddle. Go do what you got to do. Hey, there are tons of other things you could be doing here on a Friday night than sitting and listening to me bloviate. I get it. Totally get it. If you're in Virginia and you're going to be at the rally, at Lobby Day and what promises to be a tremendously huge rally, be safe. Be aware. Keep your head on a swivel, folks. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. But above all, make sure that you let your voice be heard. Because right now, that's the most important thing, is that we have our voices heard. Whether we're in Virginia, whether we're in Ohio, or New York, or California, or Indiana, or EIEIO, anywhere from sea to shining sea, all across the fruited plain, as Rush would say. We're facing the same attack. It just happens to be worse right now in Virginia. But let's not forget what we talked about last week. There are some trial balloons floated in Texas. What we talked about before, that Bloomberg's promising to spend millions of dollars in Georgia to try to flip them, as he was successfully able to do in Virginia. Elections have consequences, folks, and you got to get out there. Steve, be safe out there. He says he'll be with Protective Services for media down there, so he'll be in the middle of it, but hopefully on the outside looking in for any nonsense. Well, be safe out there, man. Keep your head on a swivel. I don't want anybody to get hurt out there, because I don't want anybody to be that guy on the news. You know what I mean? Come by and check out the first 2/3 of the show, man, because that's all we were talking about tonight. If you are going to be in Virginia, those of you who've been watching the show for a while might know that when I went to the rally in D.C., I had that reporter from Voice of America following me around, and then he'd come and done an interview with me here on Halloween, he gave me a call yesterday, which is why I'm bringing this up. He gave me a call yesterday to tell me that he's editing all that stuff up, so it should be coming out soon. Anyhow, he also asked if I knew anybody who was going to the rally, and I told him I'd put it out here. If you want to go, if you're going to the rally, particularly if you're from the area, contact me off the air at budgetgunsandgear@gmail.com. Let me know if you want to have a reporter follow you around, because he's looking for an everyman to follow at the rally and kind of get your perspective on things. That's kind of what he did with me. He did that interview, shot some footage, and then followed me at the rally too. And might want to put you in there if you're willing to be that ambassador, if you're willing to be that spokesman, if you're willing to be the positive role model we were talking about earlier. Contact me at my email, and I'll put you in contact with him. That being said, I want to say, I'm sorry, go ahead. What?
When we went to the Washington, D.C. rally.
Yes, when we went. Absolutely right.
Thank you. Trying to slip a little Top Gun in there.
That's right. That's right. Are you my goose?
No. Wait, it wasn't. I was actually hoping you'd say the wingman thing.
Yeah.
No, you be mine.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Anyhow, I want to thank everybody out there in the chat, particularly those of you who stuck around from beginning to end of this torturous dumpster fire. I very much appreciate it. You know, even those that came in late and, you know, added to the conversation. Agree, disagree, whatnot. I still value your opinion. Thanks for coming by and caring enough to say something, you know. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. As I mentioned earlier, even that thumbs up down there at the bottom, right down there, tells YouTube that you like this and that other people should see it too, and that helps a lot. If you want to help out even more, you know, go over to Patreon and become a budget buddy. Help us out like that. You know, with what YouTube's doing to gun channels nowadays, you know, that's where a lot of that's where a lot of support comes from. So I very much appreciate it and love you guys to death. As always, I'm going to leave you with this. In these dark and dangerous times, tell your Congress critters and elected representatives what you think about these issues and that they will not get away with trying to infringe upon your rights. Send them a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, semaphore, heliograph, carrier pigeons, smoke signals, bicycle messengers, runners, tom-toms, drum messages. Do whatever you have to do to let them know that you ain't going to have it. And never, ever, ever give up the fight. See you guys next week.